How's it going, everyone? I'm Sean from Courageour Frights, and today I'm going to be doing a movie review, kind of a non-spoiler, might have some slight spoilers, but I'm going to keep it as non-spoilery as possible. But I'm doing a review for the new action comedy Violent Night, which debuted today. So this is December 1st. And of course, this is a film from Universal, and it is a action comedy about Santa Claus kind of busting up a terrorist attack or a paramilitary organization. Essentially, it's Die Hard with Santa Claus. And I guess my idea of how this movie got pitched was the age old argument, is Die Hard a Christmas movie or isn't it a Christmas movie? And somebody decided to pitch the idea, well, let's make a Die Hard that nobody could possibly argue isn't a Christmas movie, because this one literally has Santa Claus in it. So this is directed by Tommy Wirkola, who is a Norwegian director who has done such films as Dead Snow, obviously the sequel, Dead Snow 2, and also Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. So he has kind of a well-known history in the genre, especially the sort of action, horror, comedy sort of aspect. His Norwegian background, I think, played at least a part of, probably a major role in the one of the plot points in this film. And I really enjoyed this movie. Santa Claus is, of course, played by David Harbour, who you'll probably know from Stranger Things, but he's also been in a number of other things. He was in Black Widow recently. He had a cameo appearance in Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth Netflix movie. And he's been getting a lot of traction lately. And I like that because I think David Harbour is one of the best things that's come out of Stranger Things. And here he is perfect as Santa Claus. Inspired casting, no doubt. The film as a whole is just, it's very fun. If you're into dark comedy or you don't mind, obviously the movie's called Violent Night. So obviously, as long as you don't mind a lot of blood and gore, I think you'll enjoy this film. It's obviously a very irreverent comedy, but they don't get ridiculous with the comedy. It's not like slap. There's a little bit borderline slapstick humor. They kind of play up on Home Alone at one point. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of overt comedy. It's kind of more, I wouldn't even say it goes into Krampus levels of comedy. It's pretty subdued. Kind of like, I guess it's similar to Bullet Train or Nobody, one of those type of, almost the John Wick peripheral films. So not the John Wick films themselves, but maybe some of the films that David Leitch has done since then, or some movies that have had that style or had that stunt team. There's a lot of really good action in this movie. So if you came here hoping to see Santa Claus kick some ass, you're not going to be disappointed. There's one sequence in particular where I swear he takes down about 30 guys with a sledgehammer. It's glorious. So I would highly recommend this movie. Until this movie came out, I think my favorite Christmas movie was Gremlins, and it probably still is just for nostalgia factor, but I do highly recommend Violent Night. I think they play a lot with Die Hard, of course, because like I said earlier, I think the whole premise was sort of based around Die Hard. The idea, pretty much, you can kind of get the idea from the trailer and some other information if you look around, but pretty much the main idea is there's a rich family, it's having Christmas, and then a bunch of guys come in and, pretty much like Die Hard, they take over the house and they try to steal the money from the family or what have you. And so it's these paramilitary type guys coming with guns, kill all the security guys, and just take over the whole place. But one thing they weren't expecting is that this is Christmas Eve and Santa Claus is there to deliver presents. And it turns out it's the Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus. And of course, played by David Harbour. And I think this movie has done something that I've always wanted to see. I don't know if other films have done this as well. None that I've seen, not certainly not one this high profile. But my personal fan theory for Santa Claus has always been a lot of people have fan theories about Star Wars or fan theories about Marvel or something. I have that too, but I also tend to do a lot of fan theories about like folklore and mythology and what my own personal interpretation is of these things. And one personal fan theory I've always had about Santa Claus is that he's actually Odin or Thor or some other Norse god that's kind of moved on, and Santa Claus is kind of his retirement plan in a way. And this film comes very close to that. And at one point, they almost flat out say that. It's still possible that that could be what their intention was, because you're talking about a guy who they very clearly state that he is like a Viking, pretty much. Like he's some Norse warrior that used to wield a hammer in battle, and that plot point comes up in a very significant moment in the film. Actually, a good chunk of the film that becomes a plot point. So, without spoiling too much, it's not really a film you could spoil too much. I mean, it's a kind of a action comedy thing. You go in expecting a lot of brutality, knowing Tommy Wirkola's films, and you will not be disappointed. But I just wanted to touch on that because that's something I've always kind of wanted to see from a Santa Claus movie. And yeah, so I would highly recommend this. This is probably one of my favorite films of the year. Um, Definitely in the top three for me. I've been turned off by a lot of the franchises lately, and so I'm really the only thing that really excites me anymore are these like smaller independent type films. And I know this was made by Universal, so it's hardly independent, but you get the idea. These smaller productions that maybe aren't over bloated franchises with 1,000 movies, and you have to watch every single one to understand what happens. So I think this one was a lot of fun. Like I said, it apes off of Die Hard pretty well, but then it also has hints of other things. I can't be positive here, but I'm almost certain that there's a little bit of Silent Night, Deadly Night in here, because when he goes on his rampage with the hammer before that, he says he has this naughty list. And the way he says, "You've been naughty," it's almost very similar to Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's like the naughty punish type thing. And I wouldn't be too surprised that Tommy Wirkola and the production crew involved in this would be at least aware of that film, the Killer Santa Claus movie from the 80s. Not to be confused with Part 2, which, everybody knows about. Whether you know it or not, you know that film.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
And so I think it was Die Hard, partly that, mixed a little bit of Norse mythology in there, and you've got this perfect formula for just a fun action romp on Christmas. And it does the action really well, but then on top of that, it also surprisingly has emotional moments in there. Like it's well crafted. The film has heart, which you might not expect, and it does hit all the right Christmas beats as well. And there's a lot of bit of Christmas Vacation mixed in there a bit, because the matriarch of the family is played by, I think, Beverly D'Angelo, who is of course the mother in the National Lampoon Vacation films. So there's a bit of a kind of tongue-in-cheek inside joke there from the production team. The main bad guy is played by John Leguizamo. I think he does a decent job. And of course, he actually is in the John Wick films. So I would say, I think, yeah, I'd say if you like John Wick and that style of film, especially the sort of comedy angle spin-offs, not spin-offs, but films in the same kind of vein, like I said, Bullet Train, Nobody, those type of films, you'll really enjoy this. Think of a Christmas version of those films with actual Santa Claus, and yeah, that's what you got. So, as you probably could guess, highly recommend this film. Uh, yeah, it's like top three movies for me. And that's about all I'm going to say about this film for this review. I think maybe in a couple days I might see it again with my friend Hoon, who's also the other Courageour Fright. on the channel, and we might have a full breakdown spoiler review then. So stay tuned for that. And until then, like this video if you, of course, liked it. If you enjoyed the film, if you didn't enjoy the film, let me know about it in the comments below. Consider subscribing for more content like this in the future, and you too could feel the strength welling within. See ya.